Dan Cohn-Sherbok is a rabbi of Reform Judaism, a Jewish theologian and a prolific author on religion. He is Professor Emeritus of Judaism at the University of Wales, Honorary Professor at Aberystwyth University, Visiting Professor at York St John University, St Mary's University and the University of Wales Trinity St David, and Visiting Research Fellow at Haythorpe College, University of London and the Centre of Religions for Peace and Reconciliation, University of Winchester. Biography. Born 1945 in Denver, Colorado, he graduated from East High School and was a student at Williams College, Massachusetts, spending a junior year abroad in Athens, Greece. He was ordained a Reform rabbi at the Hebrew Union College at Cincinnati. He was a chaplain of the Colorado House of Representatives, and honorary colonel aide-de-camp of New Mexico. He has served as a rabbi in the United States, England, Australia and South Africa. He was a student at Wolfson College, Cambridge, and rowed in the Wolfson College boat. He received a doctorate in philosophy from the University of Cambridge in England. Later, he received an honorary doctorate in divinity from the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, New York. He taught theology at the University of Kent and served as director of the Center for the Study of Religion and Society, and was professor of Judaism at the University of Wales. He has served as visiting professor at University of Essex, Middlesex University, St. Andrews University, Durham University, University of Vilnius, Lithuania, Charles University, Prague, York St John University, Trinity University College, St Mary's University, Twickenham, St Andrews Biblical Theological College, Moscow. He has been a visiting fellow at Wolfson College, Cambridge, and Harris Manchester College, Oxford, a fellow of the Royal Asiatic Society, a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts, a corresponding fellow of the Academy of Jewish Philosophy, a visiting research fellow of Haythorpe College, University of London, a life member of Wolfson College, Cambridge, an honorary senior member of Darwin College, University of Kent, an associate member of the SCR Christchurch, Oxford, a member of the SCR Harris Manchester College, Oxford, and a member of the London Society for the Study of Religion and the Arts and Humanities Peer Review College. He has also served as a visiting scholar of Mansfield College, Oxford, the Oxford Centre for Postgraduate Hebrew Studies and Sarum College. He was a finalist of the Times Preacher of the Year, and winner of the Royal Academy Friends Design Competition. He is married to Lavinia Cohn-Sherbok. Bibliography. Cohn-Sherbok is the author and editor of over 80 books which have been translated into Russian, Greek, Bulgarian, Hebrew, French, Spanish, Italian, Chinese, Swedish, Japanese, Turkish, Persian and German. He has also published 4 books of cartoons as well as cartoons in books and magazines. His books include Cohn-Sherbok, Dan, History of the Jewish Faith, hardback ed. Southwater, 2015. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Williams College Alumni Cartoons. Ebook ed. Dera, 2014. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Animals are People Too. Ebook ed. Dera, 2014. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Sensible Religion. Hardback ed. Ashgate, 2014. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Why Can't They Get Along? Paperback ed. Lion, 2014. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Debating Palestine and Israel. Paperback ed. Impress, 2014. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Athenaeum Sketches. Paperback ed. Impress, 2014. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Love, Sex and Marriage, Insights from Judaism, Christianity and Islam. Paperback ed. SCM, 2013. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Eternal Angels. Ebook ed. Dera, 2013. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Illustrated History of Judaism. Hardback ed. Lorenz, 2013. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Palestinian State. A Jewish Justification. Paperback ed. Impress Books, 2012. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Introduction to Zionism and Israel. From Ideology to History. Paperback ed. Continuum, 2012. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Judaism Today. Paperback ed. Continuum International. Pub Group, 2011. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Dictionary of Kabbalah and Kabbalists. Hardcover ed. Impress Books, 2009. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. What Do You Do When Your Parents Live Forever? Paperback ed. O Books, 2007. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Paradox of Anti-Semitism. Hardcover ed. Continuum International. Pub. Group, 2006. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Kabbalah and Jewish Mysticism. An Introductory Anthology. Paperback ed. One World, 2006. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Politics of Apocalypse. The History and Influence of Christian Zionism. Paperback ed. One World Publications, 2006. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Dictionary of Jewish Biography. Hardback ed. Oxford University Press, 2005. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Pursuing the Dream. A Jewish-Christian Conversation. Paperback ed. 2005. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Vision of Judaism. Wrestling with God. Paperback ed. Continuum International. Pub. Group, 2004. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Judaism. History, Belief and Practice. Paperback ed. Taylor and Francis, Inc., 2003. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. A Life of Courage. Sherwin Wine and Humanistic Judaism. Paperback ed. Milan Press, 2003. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. What's a Nice Jewish Boy Doing in a Place Like This? Paperback ed. 2003. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Anti-Semitism. Hardcover ed. Sutton Pub, 2002. Cohn-Sherbok. The Palestine-Israeli Conflict. Paperback ed. One World, 2002. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Comp. Holocaust Theology. A Reader, ed. Dan Cohn-Sherbok. New York. New York Univ. PR, 2002. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Interfaith Theology. A Reader, ed. Dan Cohn-Sherbok. One World Pub, 2002. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. Interfaith Theology. Paperback ed. One World, 2001. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. Voices of Messianic Judaism. Paperback ed. Messianic Jewish Publishers, 2001. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. Religious Diversity in the Greco-Roman World. A Survey of Recent Scholarship. Paperback ed. Sheffield Academic Press, 2001. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Palestine-Israeli Conflict. A Beginner's Guide. Paperback ed. One World Books, 2001. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. Voices of Messianic Judaism. Confronting Critical Issues Facing a Modern Movement. Messianic Jewish Pub, 2001. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Messianic Judaism. Paperback ed. Continuum International. Pub. Group, 2000. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. The Future of Jewish-Christian Dialogue. Hardback ed. Edwin Mellon, 1999. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. Jews, Christians and Religious Pluralism. Hardback ed. Edwin Mellon, 1999. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Judaism. Paperback ed. Prentice Hall, 1999. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. The Future of Religion. Postmodern Perspectives. Paperback ed. Middlesex Univ Press, 1999. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. Understanding the Holocaust. Paperback ed. Castle, 1999. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. A Concise Encyclopedia of Judaism. Paperback ed. One World, 1998. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Crucified Jew. 20 Centuries of Christian Antisemitism. Paperback ed. W. M. B. Eerdmans Pub. Co., 1997. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. 50 Key Jewish Thinkers. Paperback ed. Routledge, 1997. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. After Noah, Animals and the Liberation of Theology. Paperback ed. 1997. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. A Short Introduction to Judaism. Paperback ed. One World, 1997. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. Theodicy. Hardback ed. Edwin Mellon, 1997. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. A Short Reader in Judaism. Paperback ed. One World, 1996. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Atlas: A Jewish History. Paperback ed. Taylor and Francis, Inc., 1996. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Modern Judaism. From Jewish Diversity to a New Philosophy of Judaism. Hardcover ed. St. Martin's PR, 1996. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Hebrew Bible. Paperback ed. Castle, 1996. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Biblical Hebrew for Beginners. Paperback ed. SPCK, 1996. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Medieval Jewish Philosophy. An Introduction. Paperback ed. Curzon Press, 1996. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Liberation Debate. Paperback ed. Routledge, 1996. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. Divine Intervention and Miracles in Jewish Theology. Hardback ed. Edwin Mellon, 1996. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. A Popular Dictionary of Judaism. Paperback ed. Curzon Press, 1995. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Beyond Death. Theological and Philosophical Reflections on Life After Death. Paperback ed. 1995. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Jewish and Christian Mysticism. An Introduction. Hardcover ed. Continuum Co., 1994. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Judaism and Other Faiths. Hardcover ed. Palgrave Macmillan, 1994. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Future of Judaism. Paperback ed. T&T Clark, 1994. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. A Short History of Judaism. Paperback ed. One World, 1994. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Atlas: A Jewish History. Hardback ed. Routledge, 1994. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. World Religions and Human Liberation. Hardcover ed. Orbis Books, 1994. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The American Jew. Paperback ed. HarperCollins, 1994. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. Glimpses of God. Paperback ed. Duckworth, 1994. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Jewish Faith. Paperback ed. Continuum International. Pub. Group, 1993. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Not a Job for a Nice Jewish Boy. Hardback ed. Bellew, 1993. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Exodus. An Agenda for Jewish Christian Dialogue. Hardcover ed. Bellew, 1992. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. World Religions and Human Liberation. Paperback ed. Orbis, 1992. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. Many Mansions. Interfaith and Religious Intolerance. Paperback ed. Bellew, 1992. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Blackwell Dictionary of Judaica. Paperback ed. Blackwell, 1992. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Crucified Jew. 20 Centuries of Christian Antisemitism. Paperback ed. Eerdmans, 1992. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Israel. The History of an Idea. Paperback ed. SPCK, 1992. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. Torah and Revelation. Hardback ed. Edwin Mellon, 1992. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Dictionary of Judaism and Christianity. Continuum International. Pub. Group, 1991. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. Islam in a World of Diverse Faiths. Macmillan Academic and Professional Limited, 1991. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. ed. A Traditional Quest. Essays in Honor of Louis Jacobs. Hardback ed. JSOT Press, 1991. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan, ed. The Sayings of Moses. Paperback ed. 1991. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan, ed. Problems in Contemporary Jewish Theology. Hardback ed. Edwin Mellon, 1991. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Issues in Contemporary Judaism. Hardback ed. Macmillan, 1991. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan, ed. Tradition and Unity. Sermons published in honor of Robert Runcie. Paperback ed. Bellew, 1991. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan, ed. Using the Bible Today. Paperback ed. Bellew, 1991. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan, ed. The Canterbury Papers. Essays on Religion and Society. Paperback ed. Bellew, 1990. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan, ed. The Salman Rushdie Affair in Interreligious Perspective. Hardback ed. Edwin Mellon, 1990. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Rabbinic Perspectives on the New Testament. Hardback ed. Edwin Mellon, 1990. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Jewish Heritage. Hardback ed. Blackwell, 1989. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. God and the Holocaust. Paperback ed. Gracewing, 1989. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Jewish Petitionary Prayer, A Theological Exploration. Hardback ed. Edwin Mellon, 1989. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. Holocaust Theology. Paperback ed. Lyon, 1989. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. On Earth as It Is in Heaven. Paperback ed. Orbis, 1987. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan, ed. Exploring Reality. Hardback ed. Allen and Unwin, 1987. Cohn-Sherbok, Dan. The Jews of Canterbury 1760–1931. Paperback ed. Yorick Books, 1984.